Boxing King Media in association with Boxer, Mr. Jeff Powell from the Daily Mail. Jeff, it's another big AJ fight week. Where do you think this kind of stacks up in regards to how his career goes from this moment? Like how critical is this moment in his career?
Well, he's kind of prevaricated a couple of times. In one interview, he said that lose and retire, but then he's kind of backtracked on that somewhat and said, well, I get asked it so often, I finally told somebody what they wanted to hear, and let's see what happens in the fight. I think he'd have to seriously think about what he wants to do if he were to lose this fight. That wouldn't sit well, 3 successive defeats. He's matured as a person since his coming out of the rough and tumble streets and winning his Olympic medal and winning his world titles, and he's grown up and he's matured and he's more philosophical now. But I think psychologically it might be difficult for him to really commit himself to carrying on. If a Fury fight was still possible, I guess that would still catch the imagination of the public. But would he really want to go back to trying to work his way up the rankings? I'm not too sure. He said something very interesting. He said he accepts that sometimes the fans are critical, and although he doesn't enjoy that, he accepts that. But the one thing he wouldn't want to lose is the respect of his peers. That being held in high esteem by his fellow legends in British boxing, that would upset him, and he might think about that if the worst were to happen on Saturday night, and think, well, if I keep on doing this, what's it going to do to my legacy? So he'd have a big decision to make. I don't think it's irrevocable, but he'd have to try and rationalise it.
Where do you on the back end of what you said there, Carl Froch did an interview recently, and he basically said that since he's lost to Ruiz he feels like a part of his soul left him, and Carl Froch said that when he lost to Ruiz, part of his soul left him, and he's always fought nervous ever since that moment. Do you think there's any truth in what Carl Froch has said?
Yes, I think there is some truth to it. I think it just came as a shock to him to be knocked out. He'd come through, the pit of damnation against Klitschko, who he says Vladimir is the hardest puncher he's ever fought, and he'd got through that, but he wasn't able to get through Andy Ruiz, who had no reputation at the time as being a big knockout puncher. So again, I think that hurt him mentally, and I think he lost his own sense of invincibility in that fight, and a couple of times he's looked like he wasn't going to risk having that damage worsened by another knockout, but he's managed to get through the fights until Usyk was clever enough in both fights to defeat him. But at least he didn't knock him out, although there was a danger of that at the end of the first fight. So he's kind of got through that, and what I hope to see is he's talking about going back to basics. I hope to see a return to coming out, nailing the guy early if he can, getting his attention with a couple of big shots, letting the fist go, and then I think he'll be okay. If he can go back to that kind of performance, re-establish himself as a powerhouse in his own mind, then it would be very good for him. If he doesn't do that, there is a danger that Franklin, who's coming into the biggest fight of his life, is not accustomed to mass crowd hysteria as there will be on Saturday night, that he might kind of grow into the fight. He's quite an accomplished boxer and make things problematic for AJ as it goes on. So I just hope he goes out full of purpose, full of aggression, makes his statement, and then we can consider whether he can tempt Tyson Fury into relenting on his statement that he'll never fight him again because of how the negotiations went in December for their previous attempt to fight.
I hope so too. I think that would be a good way to end the year. It'd be a good way to end the year if we do end up with AJ Fury. Just want to quickly get your opinion, Jeff, on this issue with the boxing board, Eddie Hearn, Conor Benn, this whole situation in Abu Dhabi. We've seen Rob Smith come out and said there could be ramifications for Eddie Hearn and Chris Eubank Jr. should the fight in Abu Dhabi take place. Do you think that could scupper Eddie's plans?
It's not clear cut. The British Boxing Board of Control are in a bit of a corner because Conor has declined to present his huge document in defence to either them or to UCAD. I suspect the reason for that is that UCAD and the Board of Control hold to a higher standard of responsibility than the WBC. The WBC said, well, we wouldn't stop him fighting because we can't prove absolutely that he took a banned substance deliberately. The Board of Control and UCAD hold it to the higher bar that even if you didn't read the small print on the package, someone spiked your drink, however many eggs you ate, anything that goes into your body is your responsibility. If you test positive, you're positive, even if you had no idea that you'd done something wrong. You have to be careful what you eat, careful what you drink.
Do you think he gets made though? Do you think that the boxing board would stop the fight from happening based on the fact that Eddie and Eubank are...
That thing, I think if it's to be clear cut, Conor needs to go to a hearing having presented his evidence. If he doesn't, the Board of Control will have a problem about whether they can prevent a man earning his living abroad. I think we might find that it's not definitely Abu Dhabi. There is a possibility of the fight being taken to the United States, where there are some strict commissions like Vegas and New York, and there are some who are not so fussy, who would probably be very happy to put that fight on. If they do that, and that commission requests its fellow commission in Britain to recognise that, they would have a problem legally about preventing a man earning a living. So that's got some legs in it yet. There's nothing absolutely clear on that.
Interesting stuff. We'll see how the situation develops. The press conference is about to start. Jeff Powell, thank you for your time.
Always a pleasure.